Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions Daily, 4 p.m. today. Kian Golzari is back here. We are waiting for some of our other guests to arrive. Hope you enjoyed the session yesterday that we did with Kian. Kian, do you want to do a quick introduction before we get started? And we'll start talking about freight and wait for the other gentleman to join us as well.
Sure, sounds good. So guys, for those of you who don't know me and who didn't tune in yesterday, my name is Kian Golzari. I'm from Edinburgh, Scotland. I went to university in Glasgow and also in Miami, then lived in China on and off for about 10 years, moved to LA last year, was there for about 6 months and then came home during Corona. And then in that time, I've developed over 2,500 products, worked with over 500 different factories, been to over 20 Canton fairs. So in that time, I have shipped a lot of products. We do receive a lot of containers. We send a lot of containers around the world, both air freight, sea freight. So today's topic, we're going to jump in and talk about freight and really just see all right, what's different in freight today in these times compared to what was going on before, and what we really need to do to navigate around that to make it the best decisions for our business today.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. So where do you want to start with this? Should we talk about there's two sides to this, really, isn't it? The costs going up and obviously the delays. Where would you like to start with this?
Yeah, I think first of all, the costs, right? Because this is, as we all know, really crazy times, right? And what's super interesting is that the demand, the supply normally falls off. The supply and demand normally fall off like after Chinese New Year anyway, because all the big sellers and the big companies place their big orders before Chinese New Year. And then like after Chinese New Year is kind of like the low season. But now what's happened is that when the corona broke out, there was a lot of orders going to China, and then a lot of containers getting shipped out. And then when the corona broke out in the rest of the world, now people are canceling orders and there's a lot of freight. Now we're not really demanding freight from China. So what's happened is like there's been a bit of a container pileup in that a lot of containers have been sent from China to the rest of the world. Let's just say America. And those containers normally fill up with American goods and get sent back to China. But because of the quarantines and the lack of work and what's going on here, those containers are not going back out to China. And as a result, now China have to manufacture containers to keep shipping out around the world.
Because it's the boomerang effect. They're not coming back, are they?
Because these containers work in circulation, but now they don't have these vessels. They don't have these like containers to basically send out again. So they have to remake them in China. And it's like there's different effects which are happening in sea freight and also air freight. Because with air freight, what happens is that a lot of the commercial aircrafts that we fly, from here to Hong Kong to Australia to the UK, is what's used for a lot of our air freight. Now, I took a flight, I think 2 or 3 days ago from LAX to Heathrow. There's normally 5 flights a day with British Airways normally, and now there's 1 a week. So imagine the capacity of airfare or planes in the air has come down 35 times. Now imagine what that does on our goods, because now like there's a lot less capacity, so the prices have gone up. And what I've sort of noticed by speaking to people who I know, for air freight, prices are typically up about 4x, 4 times. And what's interesting is that like a lot of people have to, so sea freight is definitely advisable. Sea freight has gone up marginally, it's gone up a little bit because of what's going on, but air freight is really shot up. But a lot of people are trying to air freight because they want to maintain ranking. They don't want to go out of stock. They don't want to go into page 2. So I think it's really just a costing exercise to see, all right, how much is it going to cost me to go out of stock versus sending my goods in, and just figure out which, what's less of the two devils, basically.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. When you think, air's not the cheapest, as we know, right? It's better to go by sea, but you don't get the speed. Sometimes when you weigh up the air and sea, there's not always that much in between. By the time that they're cleared customs and landed at your 3PL or gone straight into Amazon, sometimes it's a matter of weeks. Obviously, there are times where they're longer and they get longer delays where they get hold up. But yeah, 4x, you need tremendous margins to make that work.
Yeah, so to really, a good strategy to combat that is to basically do a combination of both, like split it between sea freight and air freight, depending on how big your products are and how fast you need them. Maybe go 15% air freight and 85% sea freight. And just remember, though, if you're sending goods into Amazon, that you need 2 shipping plans. If you are sending air freight and sea freight, you need to get it approved for the air and for the sea if you're sending in at 2 different times. So maybe just consider doing a split, but it's very important to know your costs before sending anything. Very, very important.
Yeah. Let's say some hellos. Jason Chu, very interested in this talk. Morning, guys. Facebook user, sorry, their name hasn't come up. Very interested in this topic. Thank you. Tiffany says, morning, guys. Florence says, been working until now, once again, 1 a.m. here. Who said we suddenly have so much time available?
Exactly.
You are my hero, tuning in 1 a.m. in Australia.
Yeah.
So
good on you.
Say hello to some other people in the group. Jamie Perus, I know he tunes in early hours in the morning as well. I think he's there. Herb is back in the room again. Marcel's here. Owen Burrows. Hello, Owen. How you doing? Who else have we got? Megla is watching. Hey, Megla. Hope you're well.
Hey, Megla.
Yeah. So what is the best approach, do you think, in terms of approaching the freight forwarder of getting the splits right? You know, in terms of how much you go by air and sea. We're talking about velocities, like working back, which is a bit of a science, isn't it? And a bit of art as well. When you're like, because there's so many variables to running out of stock. It doesn't matter. You could sit there. I could get Ellis to write an algorithm. It still wouldn't fucking work because you can't put in like the virus and stuff like that. So how would you break that out if you took it step by step?
I think you basically need to have an inward look at your business and really analyze the costings, because like, how much is this actually going to cost me versus like, how much is it going to be worth if I go out of stock or lose ranking or anything like that? Because remember, like with sea freight, they update the prices every month, and we're in a situation where things are changing around the world day by day. So you can't really expect to have a certain amount to pay for shipping or for air freight. But just also bear in mind that the shipping industry as a whole is kind of on its knees at the moment, because they've had 3 really big hits, right? First of all, they had the Trump tariffs at the end of last year, and that really impacted shipping because people started ordering a lot less from China. And then they had Chinese New Year, which was like their low season, so there wasn't much moving anyway. And then they had the virus. So like, they've just taken 3 massive hits, and then now all of a sudden they have a lot less capacity. So I was actually looking at the stock price of a few different freight companies, like Maersk, which is the biggest, largest vessel company in the world, and they're down 50% their stock price from December to March. And then Costco, COSCO, which is the largest shipping company in China, is down 20%. And maybe Costco, I was thinking, why aren't they so much affected? But you know, China still sort of import a lot of raw materials from around the world. So they haven't been so badly affected on their imports, but the exports have been really damaged. So I think that like, we might see some shipping companies even go out of business, because I know that freight forwarders and shipping companies work on really low margins.
They do, so it's a volume game, isn't it? Yeah,
exactly. It's a volume game, and now they've lost their volume, and they often book a certain number of kilos. And I know with like air freight, you've been limited to like 100 kilos that you can book, because a lot of the air carriers are also giving priority to medical supplies, because now we have an urgent need for masks and suits and sanitizers and stuff like that. So they don't care about e-commerce products at the moment. They care about getting goods to the people who need it around the world first. So and that's important for us as well. You know, we'd rather the medical workers get what they need rather than us being able to send our products. But you know, it's just a crazy time, and we really need to really be aware of what's going on. And the best thing to do is to speak to your freight forwarders, and also consider splitting air and sea.
Yeah. So where do you think the point of recovery? I know, you know, we talk about this whole crystal ball thing, people got to stay indoors, etc. But where do you think the recovery starts for this? So 2 questions. We'll start with the recovery on the positive side, but let's say it gets worse and workers can't work, because of the virus, and then it slows down even further. Let's talk about the damage that could do to the economy. But firstly, going to the first question, when do you see the recovery coming for this?
It's interesting, because I think the recovery all depends on how much we're self-quarantined, because it's not only the freight, because you know what, it's quite easy to ship a container from one side of the world to the other, but what is difficult is the inland trucking from the port to your destination. And if they can't work, because imagine like one vessel can hold thousands of containers, but you don't have thousands of truckers to then move those goods around your destination. So that, and we will never know until we come out of quarantine, and we don't know if we're going to be quarantined until April, May, June, July. So I think that's really going to be the biggest effect of like how fast we can get people out of quarantine. Depends on how fast we can start moving products again, and as a result, we might see forwarders go out of business. So
And that's a different effect to actually the virus stopping everyone from working, isn't it? There's the difference between the cash flow on low margin of what they're dealing with. And the difference is if it's prolonged and the virus gets worse and people are unable, like the truckers, to go out on the road and finish off the distribution parts, it's fair enough by shipping, but then they've still got to get the 3PL or they've got to be shipped in on cart to Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
So, actually, let's ask the audience. Talk to guys. Can you start dropping some comments? I see Sahal has joined us. Oleg's joined us. Andrew, guys, tell us how it's going for you. Have you been getting quotes and they've been astronomical? You've been putting off your. Have you been putting off purchasing any shipping any stock at this stage because the margins are not working? Drop some comments into the box there. I'd like to know a bit more about that. While we're waiting on some questions there, Kian, let's talk a little bit about retail. We know that it's going to be beyond the recovery. We're talking about planning for the future. So if people don't want to just have Amazon as the only route in terms of selling and distributing online, let's talk about retail. What can people do now to prepare for a few months' time to put a package together to go out and see retailers to see if they can get their products there as an alternative?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think with retailers, right, it's very, very hard to get that initial meeting with the retailer to be able to convince them to stock your product. And what I like to do is traditionally, I like to go into retail stores, look at the shelf space, see what products are selling, and then see what I can do better. But now we can't really get into those retail stores, and if we do, the shelves are probably empty. But the good thing you can do to sort of use your time at home is all these buyers operate on LinkedIn. And so you can really find the buyers for the retailers and build up a relationship while they're working from home. And a quick little LinkedIn hack is that, did you know that you can go into LinkedIn, you can search for people, you can search for the company, and then you can also search by what university they went to. And I quite like doing that. So I went to University of Miami, and there's a really strong alumni network. And it's I can go and type in a retailer like Bed Bath & Beyond, and I can see which people work at Bed Bath & Beyond who went to University of Miami. And then you've already got that initial connection to be oh, hey, we went to school together. What year did you go? Oh, hey, I do these products. Oh, hey, you're the buyer for this product. So look at ways online that you can build relationships and then sort of get in that way. And now you can use this time where they're working from home and they can't really do their regular buying because they don't have a store that's open to send stock into. So you can sort of anticipate what sort of goods that we think will be most in demand, because you have to remember this virus has changed our thought patterns in terms of what we will do in the home now. People are a lot more willing to sort of work from home, educate from home, and home weights, home gyms, all that sort of stuff, yoga stuff. So these products may just fall way more in demand because you might find, actually, I really enjoy waking up and doing yoga. So let me see what yoga mats are available. So it's going to really change the patterns, but now identify what retailers can also sell these products. So you have an Amazon +1 strategy. Yes, you want to sell on Amazon, and yes, you want to sell on your own Shopify store, but now let's go for a retailer as well. And as soon as they open up, you've already built that relationship with them. So you have an opportunity to supply them directly as soon as things go back to normal.
Yeah, I mean, and it's also important with retailers as well, is that you can't force stuff on them. You need to, your products need to be a fit. Where would you say it starts where your product becomes a fit for retail?
Well, here's the thing. You can you made a very good point, because you can actually force your product into a retailer if you convince the buyer to take it. But if it doesn't sell, they'll never trust you again, and they'll never buy from you again. So it's very important to only do what's right for the retailer, because going off American retailers, Target are very different to Walmart, who are very different to Sam's Club, who are very different to Bed Bath & Beyond. So it's important to know, okay, what type of goods and what type of price points do your customers want? Walmart might want the slightly cheaper products, where Sam's Club will go for the more high-end products. So understanding where your retailer sits in the marketplace and what type of products you can supply them will really go a long way. But I always just like to see, all right, what products are they selling right now, and how can I do better than them? So I can say, hey, you're selling this outdoor furniture chair for $15. I can actually get it to you for the exact same specification for $12. And then because the products and the retailer, you're able to offer them something better. And at the end of the day, you can get very big orders just by convincing one buyer. Whereas on Amazon, you have to run ads, you have to run PPC, you have to convince thousands of buyers. Retail, you just have to convince one. So if you can build that relationship, you can get some pretty big orders.
Yeah, but also let's look at payment terms. Can be anything up to 90 days, sometimes beyond that, depends on what's agreed.
Yeah, it can be a killer because obviously, like, retailers want to sell the product before they pay
Yeah.
their supplier. So you have to basically be willing to finance the order. So before you get into a retailer, you have to decide, am I ready to supply a retailer? And you have to decide, do I have the cash flow to supply a retailer? Because bear in mind, you might have to pay your supplier 2 months before your goods are actually shipped out, and then you get paid by your customer 3 months after they're delivered. So there might be a 5-month period from when you make your payment to when you get paid. And if you can't sustain that, and remember, there's all sorts of challenges in that, like currency fluctuations can happen in that time, which can mess up your margins and your costings, as well as if there's any product defects, they can return the products to you before they paid you for it, and then you're stuck with the stock, which is why, we talked about yesterday inspections being so important. So you want to make sure that, like, you're doing your third-party testing to make sure that you're actually ordering what you say you're going to get, but then also that when you ship out, that you ship out with peace of mind that they have made what they said they're going to make.
Yeah, makes sense. I just want to mention here, B sea freight quotes seem quite reasonable at the moment. 650 for 20 and 1,000 for 40 HQ is pretty good. Michael has said, read a report from Seeking Alpha this morning. It says Amazon might be allowing in non-essential items again in the USA. Any update? If so, how might that affect air freight pricing short-term? Cheers. So first part of the question, I noticed because I sent some non-essential goods in the UK yesterday. No, not yesterday, 3 days ago. So I just raised the shipping plan. It was fine. Chris Davey was on the call, remind me of all we had to do is go inventory and inventory placement and go in and have a look and see what stock is available. So you can actually go in Sell Essential and see if any of your items can be shipped. So I don't know if Amazon's going to make a big announcement until they're going to open up it wider, but ultimately they are letting through non-essential items at this stage. You just need to have a look. So would you mind answering the second question, Kian, of that?
Yeah, so how that might affect air freight pricing is kind of what we talked about at the beginning of the show, is that the air freight companies are prioritizing the medical supplies. So I'm actually speaking to a lot of manufacturers in China who are making medical products for big hospitals and for like governments and stuff like that, and they're ordering like millions of like masks, and there's only so much supply they can do at a time. So essentially, like, the air freight companies are going to prioritize these type of products. So it's really hit and miss in terms of like how much output can the rest of the world in China do in terms of manufacturing of medical equipment, and then after that, how much air cargo or sea freight is available left, and then how much of that is then for commercial goods, which is essentially all it's going to do is raise your prices. And in terms of like lead times, like a typical courier, which normally takes 2 to 3 days, is now looking at about 2 weeks. So you also got to consider, right, prices are going up a lot, but so is your delivery time as well. So it's honestly just changing day by day. So the best thing you can do is have a good point of contact in these companies, and then just be ready to pull the trigger whenever you need it, basically.
Yeah. B says many major retailers have just announced and enforced new terms, 30 days to 120. So it's just gone on beyond another 30 there. I didn't know. Well, they say 30 days. How many people have you ever seen pay on 30 days, Kian?
No, not many.
Unless it's a discounted invoice.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, Tiffany says USA marketplace as of this morning still not allowing non-essential unless they are restocked, not as new SKUs. Okay, let's read that again. USA marketplaces as of this morning still allowing non-essential unless they are restocked or not new SKUs. I don't know if that makes sense to me. Do you understand that?
No, I didn't quite get that.
Tiff, can you rewrite that question? Sorry. USA marketplace as of this morning still not allowing non-essential unless they are restock, not new SKUs. Okay, so no new SKUs.
Wait, no, I understand it.
Yeah, I get it now. Apologies, I didn't. I missed that off at the beginning. Okay, so I want to talk about, if that's all right with you, because like I only have one product I now manufacture in China. Over the last few years, I moved all manufacturing to the UK. And one of the reasons is because I really don't enjoy logistics at all. Yeah. So what I want to be able to talk about is if you're manufacturing close to home, and I'll walk through everything I did for my products here, which gives me better lead time, gives me 30 days terms as well. Obviously, you're paying more of a premium price. So where I am at the moment, it took me about 6 or 7 months to find the factory that I needed, right? So these products come in bottles and jars and everything else in the beauty category. And what was happening is that there's no way in the UK you go on Alibaba and stuff like that. What you have to do is hardcore searches in commas on Google, right? So you're going to talk manufacturers, you talk suppliers, you talk private labeling, you search by white labeling, and there's just what you can do is use Google AdWords and run the AdWords tool and have a look for all the different searches and permutations around factory, supplier, manufacturing, white label, private label. There was a few other denominations there as well. I couldn't remember. So you make a long list and then you insert the type of product or the broad category that you look for. Then you have to go for this long protracted process of contacting people that just don't give a shit and they don't come back to you. So half the time it's a few emails, you don't come back, then you pick up the phone. And then even on the phone, a lot of these people are not that fussed about engaging because they want a situation where, you know, if you're starting with new products, they want like an MOQ of 50,000 or something like that, which is ridiculous, which you're not going to do. So eventually you find the factory, but if your products are like below £20 or so and you manufacture in the UK, in most cases, it's very, very difficult to find it to work it to margin. And so what happens is you've got like private label offered services out here, right? So let's just say I've got a product that I want to put to market and it's £12.99. To go through a white labeling company to do all the packaging, the bottling, everything for you on your behalf will cost you £7 or £8 for say like 100 ml bottle. It depends on what it is, but I'm giving you arbitrary numbers here. Mm-hmm. So what was happening is I was like, I can't work out how I can actually break even, let alone make a profit by doing it from the UK. So it took me about 6 or 7 months to break it out. And this is what I did. I reversed out of it. And this is where I really got into my whole bill of materials thing. So I worked out every element that is required for this pack. Like this, you know, so there's a bottle, it's a label, it's a swing tag, it's a lid, it's this, that, you know, so every component, put them all into the spreadsheet. Then what I did is I went all around the UK to find all these different places that like served and sold these items. Then I done a price comparison across the board and negotiate. So you're negotiating for your bottles. Then you go to the printers, you negotiate with them, go to different places, different volumes and everything else. So it's like you end up building this big spreadsheet. So the idea is that I managed to take a product that if I went through a private label company would have cost me £7.50. Instead, I paid £1.98 for this product that I sell now for £12.99. And that's including that, right? Mm-hmm. But the only way I could do that is being able to manufacture in the packaging and stuff in volumes and stuff. And everything was done in the UK. Now, this is the biggest part of it, right? And this is the biggest obstacle which will come to when you're trying to manufacture in the UK is bottles. So if you got like these clear plastic bottles, the minimum MOQ I could get was 60,000 through a manufacturer. So I contacted about 15 or 20 plastic companies. There's different permutations of these bottles, but the secret of that is that you ask for their distribution list, who they supply, right? Mm. And once you get their distribution list, they might go, right, they supply that shop there, that shop there, that shop there. And so what you do is you look at the manufacturing numbers on it, right? And what you work out is that you can go, right, that place sells these bottles here. So does that place. So does that place. So you go and negotiate with all three. Why do you do that? Because if one runs out of stock, you can go to the next one. If they run out of stock, then go to the next one. So what happens is you can get your bottles packed down into, hold on. Oh, right. So Jason's saying incredible price. Yeah, thank you, Jason. But a lot of work behind it, right? And everyone can do this. So then what happens is you negotiate with all these different companies that knowing, and the risk that you're going to take is that you buy stock from here, buy stock from there, buy stock from there. The problem is where it starts to build up is depending on the volume is your shipping costs to your final factory. So what happens in the end is that I would get the bottles done. I'd get the labels and all the packaging and I'd have them all manufactured and I'd ship. And basically what I'm using the company is what goes in the final ingredients, the product that goes into the bottles, is that all they're doing is bottling and assembling. So they're doing the free issuing. So when you look out there, you may use a company where you buy in the product, you use a free issuing company to put it all together, right? But instead, what I managed to do is I managed to negotiate a deal where my factory ends up being the bottling, like they do the free issuing. They store all of my all the raw materials and everything for me outside of the actual material itself that goes into the bottle, and they are my 3PL. So what happens is I would only be able to do that if I was able to put all of those components together, and they give me 30 days net. So as long as I don't fuck up when I'm launching a product, I've got 30 days net. I've got Amazon paying out every couple of weeks. Yeah. But obviously when you do ranking costs and stuff like that, there's a balance out after a while. But the point is, it's very, very difficult to do this in your own territory or your own country, because they're not like the Chinese. They're like ready to do business, and the costs are normally a lot higher. But what you can do is build a brand story. You can say it's manufactured completely in the UK. Does that make sense? Which gives you an advantage over other sellers on the platform that are shipping in. Because if you've got products that absorbs into your skin, the last thing you want to know is they've sat on a container on a boat for like 6 to 8 weeks. Do you know what I mean? You want to know that it's fresh and everything else. So what the exercise that I was able to get out there was, the key to it is that everyone needs to make their markup. So what you need to do is you need to find every component, build a spreadsheet of all the components, and then get the end product as the free issuer. Negotiate a deal with them, and then you can work out whether, can I keep this stock on the shelf? And then what happens is you send in, for instance, loose carts. You can send UPS in, and they label up the boxes, and out the door that they go. But that was the only way of making that product at $12.99 possible to make a profit on, even after PPC.
Did you ever have any bottlenecks in your process though? Because if one of these people were out of stock or wasn't able to supply you what you need, then you can't finish the entire process.
Yeah, that's true. That's the risk I run every single day of the week. That's the risk. My biggest risk of all of this is if the manufacturer doesn't run, like when they do these 60,000 MOQ bottles, they'll go out to all these distributors. So the drawback is because you're taking a bottle that's off the shelf and polishing the turd effectively, making it look nice, right? You're taking you know, like if you're designing your own bottles and stuff, it's a different story. But these bottles, and they don't look like a turd. But what I'm saying is that they're not the best looking bottles in the world. So what you have to do is using the right lids, the right packaging, the right labels will project that the bottles look better, right? But the problem is they're still generic. And you need to keep them generic because you can't do the 60,000 MOQ. You can't then say that you've manufactured everything in the UK, which then will be a lie. But equally, the massive risk that you're always going to take is if all of those suppliers dry up, the only option you've got, which I can do, is move to a very, very similar bottle, but it's just a different shade, just a slightly different shade, and start manufacturing with those.
That's interesting. And then, so you did that process because you didn't find the right manufacturer in China for the bottles,
I've done that process because I lost my arse on the Hanjin thing. Do you remember Hanjin a few years ago?
Right.
The game, like it was Christmas stock, and even when I got it in, I had a faulty product and even sold out, and then had to sweep it out and destroy all the stock and everything else, like because of the returns and everything else, and dump the current stock. So basically, that nearly took me out of the game 3 years ago. And so after that, I was like a bear with a sore head. So I'm thinking, how do we do this at home, right? And so it took me a little while to get around it. And then by the time you change and you stop selling certain products and you launch new products, right, it's a cycle. And so, and I don't enjoy logistics because, Terry will kill me, but I love Terry. He's been doing it for like 30 years. But it's such an old school industry, right? And it's like, when you have to chase them on the phone all the time, it's so annoying to me that it doesn't move smoothly. I think it's archaic. You know, it's like one of those industries where they still use like a mini disc and VHS and a fax machine. It's just, it's old. Don't you agree? Like there's a lot of, it needs to be dragged into 21st century. So for me, it was like, how can I do this? One, it settles on cash flow, right? So your cash flow is nice and clean. You've got 30 days. You got 30 days net. You get paid every couple of weeks. It just makes sense if you can make the numbers work. You turn stock in 2 to 3 weeks instead of 12. So you turn stock more often. You can do it at a low rate, or you can leave stock on the shelf. That's what I end up doing. I'll manufacture a shit ton of stock, and I can leave it on the shelf without being charged because I've negotiated friendly terms with my factory here in the UK as my 3PL.
So that's awesome. Like, a question I would have is like, how difficult then is it for you to scale? Because like, let's say you hit all your right components, your PPC, everything, the sales are good, and now you're really starting to scale. Like, are these manufacturers able to help you scale as well? Because you've got your hands on so many different steps of the process.
Yeah, no, you can scale it because it's been negotiated. It just comes down to the supply and demand of the current products that you got as you cross markets. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it is easy to scale. They've got the capability because this company does like huge volumes of stuff on Amazon. They do bath bombs down there as well, which is like a lot of manufacturing, and they have leading brands that, you know, like what's the word for it? They use you know, for bath salts, magnesium bath salts. I can't remember the main brand, but they manufacture their brand, and they manufacture a couple of really big leading brands. And the one I use, they've got 2 factories, plus they've got chemists to make up new mixes and stuff. So it's still done at quite a large scale. Yeah.
So this is really interesting that you brought this up, because like, I think with all the problems that we have with freight at the moment, people, and these problems could get even worse, people may be forced to manufacture some part or all parts of their products in their domestic country. So that's actually a great story to share, because now people might have to get really resourceful and figure out, okay, what can I not get either because of manufacturing or because of shipping, and now what can I do within my own country? So that's a really good story to share.
Thank you. So the only thing is, Florence says, love this, Danny. I've been laughed at for literally ripping products apart and ordering single components from 3 factories, saving 55%. So it does work, but the mechanics are difficult to put together. As I said, like this product which I started with, and then we expanded out on the products. It was fine because once you got the factory, once you got the process in place, it's easier to go wider, right? But it kept falling apart because every time we got somewhere, we hit a barrier. But because like I don't give up, we just keep going like a ball in the china shop. Eventually break through, right? And then you get lucky because you ride your way to luck. And as I said, that final stage was them being the 3PL and doing the free issuing was the icing on the cake to make all of this work together. But you're right, you know, the downside is if these bottles get wiped out, I'm in trouble. It takes me out the game in terms of selling that product. And then I'd have to ship overseas, but that's fine. Jason says, we're currently sourcing local in the US and plan on doubling down because of these events. Again, Jason, like going back to what Kian said as well, I think people are ready to do business now.
Yeah. So has anyone else got any sort of shipping experiences in terms of like sending products from China or from other countries? How's it going? Is it smooth for you guys right now?
Yeah, let's hear that. Tiffany's come back in. Michael Williamson, yes, many are. FBA shipped to customers delayed 2 to 4 weeks. Many products, even essentials. FBM winning the buy box more. What else have we got? Cyb, there's a question. Amazon paying out seems they've extended payout times due to their extended return times. Is that right? I haven't noticed any difference. That may be true. It depends on your marketplace as well, mate. Let's have a look. Michael Williams, are sellers moving to FBM in the USA? If so, which 3PLs are sellers moving to, which have access to strong negotiated shipping rates? Good question. Not sure, but if you scroll down my Facebook page and look at an older show that we covered about 2 weeks ago, I've noted been doing shows daily. Steve Simonson commented and left about 3 or 4 different options for 3PL in the US. It might take you a bit of time, but scroll back, go to about this time 2 weeks ago, and that should give you some answers there.
Also, another thing you might want to consider is that, like, depending on how fast you want to get your goods to market, you might, and let's say you're worried about your goods not getting into Amazon, you know, because it's a non-essential item, you might want to consider using a 3PL company in China, because they're, instead of having it in the factory, if you have it in the 3PL, they're literally ready to ship out when you say go. And I know that, like, I think you've got a call with Raphael from Unicargo. He's actually got his own 3PL company in China as well, which does that. So that's one thing to consider as well.
Yeah. Sounds good. We haven't had the other gentleman turn up today. Guys, unless you've got any other questions, we may wrap here. Hold on. Florence come back. Having a 40 40-foot HQ on the water right now. Left 3 days ago. Fingers crossed. In checks. In well into FBA. No inbound shipping plan yet. No, good luck with that. But the thing is, you've got to ride your luck, haven't you? You've got to work out, ship now and then find out, take that risk and see what happens in a few weeks' time. Hopefully it will go in, mate. But you never know. You know what it's like good out luck. There in this world at the moment. Who have we got here? Oleg. Our containers are coming from China on schedule, but there is an increase in freight price. Yes, otherwise all good. That's good to know. Anyone else got any comments there? While we're waiting for any other comments, Kian, what have you been working on this week?
So it's interesting because my travel brand is kind of on halt at the moment. I was very, very lucky that I didn't launch it, but I've just kind of been using this time. I'm building a YouTube studio in my spare room in my apartment, and I'm just going to be churning out a lot of free content on sourcing about, how to develop products, how to negotiate prices, how to find the right manufacturer, what to do at the Canton Fair, stuff like that. I'm just sort of using this time to be able to add value to the community and just sort of knock out some good YouTube content. But it's interesting times, because we also have to be able to pivot in these times as well, and possibly consider other categories. But we just don't know when things are going to go back to normal. So you might want to get into some home categories, but then there might also be a lot of competition in those categories, and then there might be a lot of new sellers entering the market as a result of this time at home. But I think it's very, very important to check the stats and check everything daily, because everything is changing daily, just to stay in the know. The other thing as well is with the Trump tariffs as well. There were some articles going around about that he's reducing these tariffs, but he hasn't. He's actually come out and said that he's not changing anything to the tariffs, but he is under a lot of pressure. There's a lot of people putting pressure on him. So like anything, I think it's changing day by day, and one day we might hear that certain categories tariffs have reduced as well. And I don't think they're going to make announcements, like they would if a certain category. So definitely check in. Like there's the HTS website. Just keep checking your product category to see if tariffs have reduced. And also remember, if your tariffs have reduced, you can actually claim for the last year as well. If you have paid for a certain tariff and it has come down, you can sort of make savings on what you've paid before in import tariffs. So that's one thing to really keep in mind.
Jamie says, Florent, loose loaded cartons, how many different products inside, out of interest, mate? And Michael is saying, how long is Amazon holding the payment late now too? I'm not sure, actually. I haven't noticed it myself. Maybe someone will have some answers there as well. I think we kind of covered everything, mate, haven't we?
Yeah, that was good. I mean, yep.
I know it wasn't the show that we planned today, but what we did is we made it work, right? This is what
we pivoted.
We pivoted.
Yeah.
So, guys, hope you enjoyed the show. Kian, don't forget, guys, join Kian's group down below. Check out the Facebook group, Sourcing with Kian. Make sure you sign up there. Does some great content. He's always been very good with being very open with his content coming onto my platform as well. So, thank you again, and I'll see you again on Friday. We're going to be talking about some other bits and pieces. So,
sounds good.
See you on Friday. Guys, much love. Take care. Stay safe. Stay at home. And I'll see you again tomorrow, same time.
See you guys. Ciao, ciao.